Black history of rock and roll. 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 Today we are featuring Sister Rosetta Tharpe. I actually wanted to feature Sister Rosetta Tharpe yesterday for Mother's Day, but my phone was tripping out. So today I just thought I would give it a shot. It's sounding a little bit better than it was. I think it had a cold or something. It was. Anyway, yes, we're featuring the Queen Mother herself, the Godmother of rock and roll music. Presaging it by 20 years, really. She was doing this genre of music in the 30s. And she's even quoted saying, well, heck, a lot of us were doing this before it was even a thing, you know? Being a gospel singer, she pretty much like crossed over into what people might call secular or whatever, or mainstream music. This is back in the day because a lot of her songs that she was playing was gospel music. She just played it mean in a mean guitar with a sweet voice with a mean guitar. And man, she was not jiving when she was playing, man. Sister Rosetta Tharpe was playing that guitar like, man, she rocked madness. I kid you not. You know, she is regarded as having an influence on the likes of Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Johnny Cash, and even Elvis, who I don't regard as the king of rock and roll at all. When you think of rock and roll music and also the band setup, she was also the first to do that as well. The bass, drums, and guitar setup that you see in a lot of rock bands, and I think she even had a piano in there, that could also be attributed to her as well. Now, we could talk about other stuff when it comes to R&B and all that, but from what I read, she was pretty much ahead of her time with that particular instrumentation, as well as just the way that she played. She toured the UK, in the early 60s, and the likes of cats like Eric Clapton, and I think even Pete Townsend, like they all were inspired by just the way that she played. And she pretty much taught cats, man, like this, this queen of rock and roll, yes, a black woman, pretty much schooled people on how to rock that madness big time. you know if anything, she also is known, I mentioned that she was a gospel singer earlier, for crossing over, from the gospel to the pop realm. And some people thought it was a conflict. It was natural to her just to play how she was playing and also praise the Lord in the process. It was nothing, you know, it wasn't a big deal to her. It was not a conflict of interest. It was more like, hey, God gave me this gift and I'm doing this. You know what I'm saying? And, it's a shame that she just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This should have happened. This should have happened when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame started. But you know what? We don't need their rewards. We don't need their accolades. We got our own. And this is a tribute to Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Black history of rock and roll. Black history of rock and roll. Black history of rock and roll. The innovator of rock and roll, Queen Mother, Godmother, innovator, inventor of rocking that madness, rock and roll. She even had a song called Rock Me, which is a gospel tune. And pretty much the rock and roll term came from the church, really, the black church specifically. And of course it was used as a sexual innuendo later, but yeah, but you could really thank her for inventing the genre and even making a song about rocking, So shout outs to Sister Rosetta Tharpe, memory eternal. Thank you. Thank you, thank you for what you've done in innovating rock and roll and influencing the world when it comes to rocking that madness. I'm Odd Rocker, out with the Black history of rock and roll.